This article contains spoilers for the Midnight Club Season 1. All the main characters in the Midnight Club are teenagers who have been diagnosed with terminal illnesses. Mark Flanagan's latest Netflix horror series is essentially an extended exploration of the theme of death itself. The Midnight Club is set in Brightcliff Manor, a hospice dedicated to teenagers who have all received a terminal diagnosis, but there are also sinister forces lurking in Brightcliff Manor, ranging from supernatural threats to a dangerous cult called the Paragons. Every one of the Midnight Club's main cast must confront the horrific truth of their own mortality. This is symbolized by a so-called living shadow, which appears to be a physical representation of death itself. Some residents of Brightcliff try to flee from the shadow, while others accept it and discuss it freely with one another. There are also strange visions of an old man and an old woman, eventually revealed to be the Freelance, eaters of years who sustain themselves on the years the teenagers have been denied. Some Brightcliff residents choose to identify themselves by their illnesses. Ilonka literally forgets to tell Kevin her name when they first meet in the Midnight Club episode 1. Others are much more private, choosing to keep details about their illnesses to themselves. Charis is never clear and is only referenced in an ambiguous manner. But the sad truth is that only one of these teenagers will survive more than, at most, a couple of years. Ilonka, the star of the Midnight Club, has thyroid cancer. Ilonka is the central character of the Midnight Club, diagnosed with papillary thyroid carcinoma, with lung metastasis, essentially meaning she has thyroid cancer. Treatment is now much more effective, but Mark Flanagan's The Midnight Club is set in the 90s, and sadly Ilonka's diagnosis came too late. She went through 3 rounds of chemotherapy before deciding to go to Brightcliff Manor, still hoping for a miracle. Kevin, the Midnight Club's love interest, has leukemia. Kevin serves as the main love interest in the Midnight Club, particularly ironic given Ilonka initially identified him only by his illness, rather than seeing him as a person. He has terminal leukemia and isn't expecting to last a year. Tragedy is never far away at Brightcliff Manor. The Midnight Club's Spence has AIDS. Spence is one of the most troubled teenagers at Brightcliff Manor, wrestling with his parents' rejection over his sexuality. Spence is dying from the AIDS virus, highlighting the fact that this was a time when there was still a great deal of public fear over this, most of it misguided. He omits to tell Ilonka his own diagnosis when serving as her tour guide, but it's not long before she learns the truth. The Midnight Club's Natsuki has ovarian cancer. Several cast members of the Midnight Club are playing characters with cancer. Natsuki, for example, has been diagnosed with a terminal case of ovarian cancer. She's one of the more private residents at Brightcliff Manor, eventually admitting she struggles with depression as well. Sandra is the Midnight Club's miracle, a devout Christian. Sandra was diagnosed with a terminal case of lymphoma, a cancer of the lymphatic system, part of the body's immune system. This partly explains why, at one point, she angrily accuses Ilonka of taking a group of immunocompromised kids into a dangerous position. It's eventually revealed that Sandra's treatment was actually effective, and she is now in remission. Amesh has a glioblastoma. Amesh is another of Brightcliff Manor's residents who has been diagnosed with cancer. In his case, it's a glioblastoma, an aggressive tumor in the brain or spinal cord. Netflix is yet to announce the Midnight Club Season 2, but sadly Amesh is unlikely to appear again, given Hess already begun seeing the shadow of death in the corner of his eye. Chiri has another form of cancer. Another of the more private residents, Chiri is wary of opening herself up to others. She never confirms the nature of her illness, but does refer to chemotherapy, meaning she must be another character who has been diagnosed with cancer. Cheri's privacy makes her story even more affecting. Anya, the Midnight Club's fiercest character, has bone cancer. Kevin knows better than to disclose Anya's diagnosis to Ilonka, but she eventually reveals she has bone cancer. It's likely her leg was amputated in an attempt to save her life, but the procedure was unsuccessful. Bitter and angry, Anya's ire nonetheless conceals a deep reserve of caring and compassion, making her one of the most tragic characters in The Midnight Club. The Midnight Club Season 1 is streaming now on Netflix.
I'm the strip,